Erie. It's Monday, November 18th. Welcome back for another Flagship City Sports Talk brought to you by Quick Fill. I don't know what it is, but we're running a little on empty, so this is going to be a good show. Long weekend.
Sucking fumes, man.
Yeah,
Sucking fumes.
yeah, long weekend, good weekend of sports, just never feel like we hit that. Well, I guess I should say I never hit that rest button. In the studio,
go, baby.
Gang's all back together. Paul Adams, Zach, Rich Smith. Guys, how we doing today?
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather from the weekend, but I feel like the best I have in about 3 days. So let's hit it hard before my energy runs out, before the medication wears off.
We got that 1 hour window. Rich, how say you?
Well, I was
camping.
There we go.
Yep,
Okay. There's
yep.
still a little, I point. That's when you're supposed to say it.
Well, see, but it's like, like in my head, I'm like, you're playing a trick on us. You can't always be camping, but you are, in fact, always camping.
Always camping, yeah.
Nice weekend over in Ohio.
Okay.
So,
those two words usually don't go in the same sentence,
well,
nice in Ohio.
Ooh. Shots fired at the state of Ohio.
And joining us in the virtual studio, Isaac Petcash. Isaac, how you doing, man?
Boys, I'm all right. I'm going to try to lift up the energy this morning. It was a great sports weekend. I spent a little time in Central PA on Friday and then came home for the last couple of days and just hung out. It was almost a perfect sports weekend on my end. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we'll try to lift up those spirits this morning.
Yeah. No, it's, I'm still recovering. I was away all weekend and, took a flight down to DC and back for a work trip. And, yesterday, just like all the, like you're talking about, Paul, the bariatric pressure and the allergies, my head is just killing me this morning. Not to mention that, like,
being in an airport, I think that's I think where I got sick.
It's like worse than a hospital.
It is.
I would rather be in like the ICU than have to, sit at
it's like a hospital without
Reagan.
the sanitation measures,
Yeah. So just a crazy weekend. And you know what? I never fly. I won't out this airline on the air, but it rhymes with Shmerican. And it's every time I fly with them, it's awful. And so, I hurt this morning. And I'm a big guy, so those little seats aren't made for me. Nothing makes me feel like, an anti-human than sitting in a Shmerican flight.
Same thing on Southwest, man. I flew this summer, and when you are a big guy, you pray for the person beside you.
Yes.
Because that it is not comfortable.
I had one guy on a Southwest flight. I always sit on the aisle because I know I'm a big guy. So I want to lean out and give people room and stuff like that. And there's nobody in between me and there's a guy in the window. And this old guy walks by us in the aisle and he goes, "Do you ever feel like nobody wants to sit with you?" And I was like, ouch! Like, I know that I'm a fat guy, but come on, man, you don't have to say it. Like, be kind to one another out there.
We should out that guy's name. Who is that?
I should have asked him.
Put a label on him. Wow.
Well, and I missed it at first. Like, he walked by, and I'm like, "Oh, that was funny." Wait a second.
Both my kids were on the flight. Neither one of them sat near me. So,
well, that has nothing to do with size. That's just because you're dad.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk actual sports. Again, if you want to follow along, head over to the YouTube channel, and you can comment along. That's Gem City Sports Podcast Network, at Gem City SN, all over socials, on the air here. We're in the Talk Erie studios on 105.9 FM. We're literally anywhere. If you're not listening, you have no excuse. So tell your friends. All right, like Isaac said, we got a lot of states to get into. Let's jump into the North Shore Rewind, brought to you by Duskus Funeral Home. Starting with football, General McLane's historic football season comes to an end with a 27-26 loss to an undefeated Clearfield in the first round of the PIAA Class 4A playoffs at Bison Stadium on Friday. It was the Lancers' first state playoff appearance since 2006, and man, I mean, Isaac, nobody got a better look other than the teams than you in this game. Final score, Clearfield 27, GM 26. I mean, this was just a back and forth. This was more of a back and forth knockout fight than Tyson versus Jake Paul. Just not enough. Just, whoever was going to have the ball last was going to be the one to win this game. And, unfortunately, GM couldn't seal it. Isaac,
Yeah,
you saw
yeah,
it firsthand.
and-
What was your reaction?
Well, the game wasn't staged, first of all, so that automatically makes it better.
I told you the match was staged. Sorry, go ahead. We'll get to that later.
For me, I think the word is heartbreak, and I don't say that lightly because everyone talks about there are heartbreaking losses, heartbreaking games, but I think the way that it played out, you legitimately feel awful for those kids riding the bus home. I thought that there were so many moments in the game where I thought, okay, Lancers are out of it, right? Their defense had been getting grounded down in the second half because Clearfield didn't play well offensively to start the game. GM goes up 20-7, and then the Bison start to just run the football for 6-7 yards to carry. And you could tell the defense was getting worn down. They were on the field a lot. GM's offense got inside the 30 twice to start the second half, and they couldn't score on either drive. And you figured, okay, this game's going to be troublesome. And I thought that was the case in the fourth quarter. 6 minutes to go, Bison up by 1, a chance to score a touchdown to go up by 8 or 9. GM gets a fourth down stop. And then we have the Jacob Zeitz injury, which I don't have an update on him this morning. We hope and pray he's okay. It didn't look great from what we saw on Friday. But to see Isaac Zeitz 2 plays after that injury, watching his brother go down, get carted off the field, then to throw a 96-yard touchdown to Kyle McConnell, I thought that was it. I didn't think it was it because GM was going to hold Clearfield. I thought, okay, 6 minutes to go. Even if Clearfield goes down and score, the best they're up by is 3. And then GM can run down the field with 2 minutes to go and win the game. I wasn't a huge fan of the play calls at the end of the game, but I don't blame Marshall McCormick for trying what he tried. He had a lot of one-on-one coverage in that game, goes to the end zone on fade routes twice on 2nd and 3rd down. And I said this on Friday night on the podcast, you just got to wrap your arms around McCall Eichner. I feel so bad for that kid. Kick gets blocked at the end of the game. It's not his fault. I mean, he did miss an extra point earlier in the game, but just a couple of opportunities and little things, right? You can overcome little things in the regular season. You can't in the state playoffs. And it ended up being that little thing, couple little things was the difference in the game. And you just feel bad for that team coming into today and over the weekend.
And Paul, you're a former coach. What do you do? You have a team that's just running on you, and every time they rush the ball, 5-6 yards a pop, you can't slow down the rushing attack. At what point does it, I don't know, what do you do in that situation? Do you keep trying new things? Do you have to just adjust? Do you just think, okay, this is going to happen, we have to counteract it on offense? I mean, put us into the coach's mind a minute.
A little bit of what you said. When you're getting gashed, it's really hard from a play calling perspective. You want to take away the run, obviously. The way to win football games, even in 2024, is you run the ball and you stop the run and you control the clock. So if you're getting gashed, you want to try to put an extra hat in the box. Obviously, that opens up things in the pass game. You try to take away as much as you can, but you can never take away anything.
Yeah.
And to what Isaac said, an absolute heartbreak. Every game comes down to it's not just one play. You can't point at one thing and go, well, that was the difference. Obviously, in a game that you have a field goal blocked at the end of the game, you lose by 1 point. It's really, really easy to say, well, that was the play. But a game is a culmination of so many things. Isaac, what you said, when you're a coach, when you're calling offensive plays and you see one-on-one coverage, you have the level of quarterback, you have the level of receivers that you do. You have to like that as a coach because nothing is a gimme in any game, especially a close playoff game. So you're playing percentages. Look, I like my guy one-on-one. I think we can – our guy knows where the ball is going. Their guy does not. I like that opportunity. But Isaac, like you said, an absolute heartbreaker, a word that is used often too much in sports. This one truly a heartbreaker. You have a 2-possession lead. You lose, I don't want to say the heartbeat of the team, but certainly one of the 2 best players on your squad with only a couple of minutes to play. And then, a bad snap, a poor kick right at the end of things. An absolute heartbreaker for GM. I got to tell you, I was a special teams coordinator. Do you know how hard it is to block a field goal? It really, truly is. And I got to give Clearfield all the props because it really is such a tough thing to try to coach up. So really just a tremendous play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say, we made a good play, but they played better. I always told our guys after a loss, listen, those guys practiced all week too. They put in a lot of hard work too. So you got to tip your cap to them. They were the better team on that night. But, if you play that game 10 times, how many does GM actually come away with?
Let me say this really quickly too, guys, because I want to touch really quickly on Paul's point about the defense. Brady Collins came into this game as the 4th best running back in terms of rushing yards in the state. GM held him to 186 yards. It seems like a lot. That's actually not that bad. And so I think that's an even more frustrating point. Your defense, for the most part, if your GM played decently well and you couldn't pull it off, I think that's a big point as well.
Well, and I think for me, I think I'm curious to see what will happen in the offseason, right? You have a lot of seniors leaving this team, obviously the Zeitz twins and things like that. But I like what Coach McCormick has done.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more to do. And with this turnover, it's going to be interesting to see if they can bring it back next season. All right, that was the North Shore Rewind brought to you by Dusty's Funeral Home. We do have a couple more state games we want to get to after the break. When we get back, you're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. You know, the GM game was a heartbreak. You know, it was a team that I think we had high expectations of all year. We had the Zeitz twin story. That was such a great story to follow. And GM, just a historic, record-breaking season. So it is tough to see it go down like that. But they're not the only team that we want to hit coming out of the state playoffs. So let's stick back into the North Shore Rewind here a minute. All right, jumping from football to football, both Cathedral Prep boys and girls soccer teams ended their season in the PIAA 2A championship matches against the dominant Northwestern Lehigh. Both of the boys and girls teams lost to Northwestern Lehigh. Northwestern Lehigh's teams were undefeated at 28-0. These teams have been powerhouses in soccer for a while. The boys team lost 4-0, while the girls team fell 2-1 in double overtime in Mechanicsburg. Paul, I'm going to toss it to you first and pick a game. We can talk both games at once, whatever you want to do. The girls match, I think, was a little bit closer than the boys match, but unfortunately both teams end up with the loss here.
Yeah, I was going to say 56-0 combined for Northwestern Lehigh in soccer this season.
That's good.
So you didn't get upset, right? I will say the girls team finished the season at 23-1, lost that 2-1 double overtime. Another one, heartbreaker.
Yep.
Right? Double overtime in the state championship. I think that qualifies.
Oh,
Olivia Dixon scored Prep's equalizer in the second half, but the golden goal by Northwestern's Dylan Ritter sealed that game. Both Prep teams faced challenges but gained valuable experience for next season. Both teams returned most key players despite a few graduating seniors. So Cathedral Prep, they'll be back.
And it was kind of an up and down season for them, you know, injuries and back and forth games. And, you know, there wasn't really the, you know, I remember the dominance of, especially the boys team at Prep, just always being a tough match. So, you know, if this is their get right year, They're doing okay.
I was gonna say, if you
They're
end with a
doing
state
okay.
silver medal and you kind of bring the squad back next year, it bodes well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It reminds me almost like Fairview tennis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They finished silver last year. They bring back the squad this year. They get the gold, and they're looking forward for another one next year.
Great. Well, now we have some Paul and Isaac tennis talk happening.
By Yannick Sinner. Finished off a great year with the ATP Finals Championship. All right, I digress.
Oh, that's what I had in my notes. You stole it.
You did not. Get out of here, you liar.
Also at States, Trinity defeats Corry in straight sets in volleyball to win the PIAA Class 2A Girls Volleyball Championship on Saturday. This was a tough one, because Corry, I think, just had all the momentum going into this game. Unfortunately, fall in each set. Close every time, but this is a Corry team that had a lot of seniors, had a lot of hype. They played really well, but just couldn't get over the hump. Isaac, what about you in terms of Corry moving forward, this game, things like that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost is however long he wants to coach for, whether this was his last year, whether he's going to keep going. Kelly Goodsell, to me, is the preeminent coach when it comes to volleyball around this area. He is always and has always been a coach that can get a team further along than maybe they expected. And we had him on the podcast last Thursday, and this was a team that felt confident that they were going to be at this spot. Keep in mind, they had a lot of resiliency in their last two matches. Coming into the state final, they had lost the first set in each of their previous two matches that they played. And so I think for Corry, maybe it was a bit of fatigue. When you have consecutive emotional matches in a row like they did, including that 5-setter against Cathedral Prep, I think it can take a lot out of a team. And then I think you look at Trinity and a couple of MVP caliber players that they have over on their side. Corry kept it close, give them a ton of credit. And I think this is a team that's you're going to look back on this year and think, man, they went as far as they could. And maybe if they didn't have to play 2 5-setters in a row, that they could have probably given Trinity even more of a run for their money. But between Kelly and the players, we thank them for being on the podcast last week. And just what a season. I mean, there was a lot of expectation coming in that they would be at this spot. They delivered on that expectation. And now, yeah, it's a sour taste, but you're 3 sets away from a state championship. Nothing to hang your hat on, nothing to be ashamed of. And a huge credit to Kelly and that team for getting to where they really wanted to be.
Yeah, and Isaac mentioned it. And if you missed that interview or you miss any of our shows, by all means, go back, check us out on podcast apps or go to YouTube and you can watch the live streams over again. That's Gem City Sports Network. Anywhere you can find us. So, unfortunately, a lot of losses coming from the States, but congratulations to all the teams that went. Like Isaac just said, that is a huge accomplishment to even get that far. So congratulations to all teams involved. Before we wrap up the segment, I do want to jump to the ice and talk about the Otters. We haven't, with a lot of the D10 football and college football happening, we hadn't had a really chance to kind of check in on the Otters since we had Bednard before the season started. So let's just kind of catch people up on the state of the season. Right now, the Otters sit at 11 wins, 6 losses, 2 overtime losses, and a shutout loss. This team is I don't know how you guys feel. To me, the Otters just seem streaky right now. Yep. I think that they are, they put together a couple wins and then they fall a couple losses, and they put together a couple wins and they fall a couple losses. They'll win a game, not like 9-3 against Niagara on November 7th, but then they lose 2-6 against Kitchener on October 25th. So I think I think for me, the state of the Otters right now is they just need to find some consistency. Last year, they were able to put up points, but the goaltending was kind of a bit of an issue. Goaltending looks really good this year, and now offense seems to be a little bit of an issue. So I just think it's early. They're trying to figure it out, but that's been kind of the big, I'll say, flaw that I've seen in the Otters game so far.
Well, I'm going to start out with my reading here. I'm going to go over this last week, and then I'll give you sort of my thoughts on the season. They wrapped up a 6-game road trip this week, guys, with a 1-2 week, highlighted by a 7-5 win over the Saginaw Spirit on Friday. Here's the guy. Captain Kerry Terrance led the way with 6 points, including a 4-goal explosion in that victory. Dylan Edwards also had 3 goals and 3 assists, while Matty Schaefer, the former number 1 pick, contributed a goal and 5 assists across the week. Power play was good. They'll face the Brampton Steelheads coming up, games this Friday and Saturday. They have 5 straight home games coming up. You mentioned the record. They are 3rd place in the Midwest Division. I will say this. The Otters are much better now at this point in the season than they were a year ago.
Oh,
and
agreed.
we remember how well they finished the season. I feel like this is how this team is going to be. The coaching staff is going to figure out the players. They've moved around the roster a little bit of shakeup. By the end of the season, they will have this team firing on all cylinders going into the playoffs. And again, I think they're in a better space now than they were at this point last season.
Yeah. Isaac, who's been that player that's stuck out to you so far this year in the Otters?
You know, it's funny because a couple of weeks ago, Ryan and I, Zapolsky and I did a Hockey Talk Tuesday episode, and I inadvertently called out Corry Terrance for his lack of scoring ability. And since then, he's shut me up, and he's up to 10 goals now. I think he's really taking form. I think this is a guy who maybe there's a little bit of frustration that he didn't get a chance to play in the NHL with Anaheim at the beginning of the year, though I think it was understood that he would come back to Erie. He gets the C put on his chest, a lot of expectation for him, up to 17 points now in 20 games played. I will say, too, if you're talking about a couple of players, the line last year that was so dominant, Pano Famous, Sam Alfano, Dylan Edwards, they're 1, 2, and 5 in the team right now in points. They continue to dominate, and it would not shock me if at some point they get put back on the line together just because they're nearly unstoppable as a trio. Those three are the big guys that are playing well. Malcolm Spence is playing well. So what you're looking for now is depth scoring. It was the question again last year with the Otters, is depth scoring. Your top six will be fine. You have the goaltending now in Noah Erliden, who's 10-3. Can your bottom six start to produce? That's the big question for me. Other than that, I think they're off to a really good start. Third place in the Midwest is great because that division is hell. There are 5 great teams in that division.
Correct.
So to be where you're at right now and potentially a top 4 seed at this point is a good place to be for Erie.
Yeah, a lot of good hockey to come there as well. Paul, we got to shorten the 2-minute drill to about a 1.5-minute drill. You think you can do it?
No, but we'll try.
All right, let's hit it.
And then there were 2. The Hickory Hornets clinched their second straight District 10 AAA title in dramatic fashion, defeating Sharon 37-31 with a touchdown from Xander Telez to Khalil Houston with 18 seconds to play. Telez accounted for 228 total yards and 4 touchdowns, including that game winner. Kelvin Morrison had 134 yards rushing and a touchdown. Sharon's Ike Friday led all rushers with 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hickory now advances to the state quarters to face undefeated Penn Cambria. The Wilmington Greyhounds captured their first District 10 title since 2020 with a 26-20 win over Greenville. Chase Michaeltree rushed for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Jamie Miller added 130 yards and a score. Greenville's Nick Soldrich threw for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 39-yard pass to Justin Schell, who had 7 catches for 130 yards. The game was sealed after Wilmington's defense stopped a late Greenville drive. Wilmington now advances to face District 9 champion Port Allegheny in the PIAA quarterfinals. Had to mention the Farrell Steelers. They fell 41-6 to undefeated Central Clarion in the PIAA playoffs over the weekend. That game was 14-6 at halftime before CC put up 28 points in the third quarter. That loss ended their 11-0 streak against District 9 teams. The number 11 Gannon women's basketball team edged Charleston 71-68, improving to 7-0 on the season. Bree Claxton led with 26 points, 7 rebounds, and a crucial late-game steal, while Trinity Harris hit a decisive layup in the final seconds. Gannon outscored Charleston 18-11 in the fourth, overcoming a 39% shooting performance with a stellar 91% free throw completion from the line. And we'll wrap up with this. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a perfect 15-0, powered by the league's top-ranked offense and a deep, balanced roster. Key performances from Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Karis LeVert have fueled their early dominance under first-year coach Kenny Atkinson.
I can't wait to get Pebbles back in the studio
Yes,
to talk
sir.
Cavaliers. Before we take our next break, I want to take a second and thank all of our sponsors: Quick Fill, Duskus Funeral Home, Dauber Auto Supply, John's Wildwood Pizza, Denny's Sales and Service. Without them, we wouldn't be here for you. When we get back, we're bringing back an old Isaac segment. We're going to react to the weekend that was in the NFL. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. Hanging out in the Talk Erie studios this morning down here on State Street. Always a
interesting spot.
See. Get some characters walking by. Starting to look like Christmas, though. We can see a wreath across the across the street here. My wife, when I was away this weekend, she decorated the whole house for Christmas. We're already back into the Christmas spirit. So
we did the same when my wife was home. It was fun.
Yeah, tis the season, so they say.
Speaking
of a new season, we want to bring back an old Critical Eye segment. I don't know if I can say Critical Eye in the air. If not,
you can. It's fine.
Okay, good. We'll bleep it out later. But Isaac had both Paul and I on different episodes on Overreaction Monday, and we thought, what a great segment. So we're bringing it to Flagship City Sports Talk and the Gem City Sports Network here this morning. So, Isaac, I'm going to turn over the host duties to you here and kind of take us through this segment. And when I hear of Overreaction Monday, I just think what we're going to hear is a lot of this.
Loud noises!
So go ahead, hit us with the first overreaction for this Monday morning.
All right, boys. So in case you don't know how the game works, for those of you at home, I've got a bunch of Overreaction Monday segments for the Bills and Steelers. I might have one for the Browns later, but I give the topic, and then it's Paul and Nick's job to tell me whether that's a wild overreaction or whether I'm actually on the right track or not. So we're going to start with the combined effort from the games yesterday. Guys, we saw two great games, Bills, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, both coming down to the wire, four great AFC teams. We just saw AFC divisional round weekend play out yesterday. Those four teams, those are the final four on divisional weekend in the AFC.
Wow.
Not an overreaction.
Agreed.
The AFC is a little bit down this year, but I think those are clearly the cut above. Those are the four best teams in the AFC.
Yeah, I'm going to say overreaction. And it's on the Baltimore side of things. I said this at the start of the season. I am not a Baltimore believer. Lamar needs to show me that he can win big games. And the other thing that I said early on in the preseason when we did our preseason predictions is there's a sleeper team that I think is going to make a deep run into the playoffs, and that's the LA Chargers. You saw that last night in a game against Cincinnati. Harbaugh has that team rolling. The defense is playing really well. The offense was very run heavy to kind of start the year, and they didn't look like they were figuring things out. But, this may be an overreaction, but I think Herbert has to be in the MVP conversations right now. They beat Cincinnati 34-27. Cincinnati, Burrow, and the Bengals lead the league in passing and reception yardage, yet they can't seem to get out of their own way, and they're losing these tight games. J.K. Dobbins takes it to the house late last night. Not that I'm breaking down this game, but all to say, I do think it's an overreaction because I could see the Chargers knocking out the Ravens at some point and sneaking in to play the Steelers in the AFC Championship.
Okay. All right. Well, I looked at it, and we'll get to more of it in a second, but I look at it as, okay, Bills and Chiefs are going to be there at 2-3, maybe
For
Steelers in that mix, and then the Ravens will be a wild card team. They'll win first round, and then you get those four matchups again. All right, let's go to Bills Chiefs, guys. What a game. What an ending. Buffalo gets it done, and now they're in the driver's seat to be better than Kansas City by the end of the season. And let's just forget the Lamar talk, forget the Derrick Henry talk. Josh Allen's the clear MVP favorite. Can we just that? There's no question about this. It's obvious. His fourth down run yesterday. Josh Allen, clear favorite for MVP. Book it now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I even though, everyone's going to talk Mahomes, the Chiefs are playing well. Lamar has a case, but I think when Lamar has a game like yesterday, and I think if that MVP comes down to Allen and Lamar, I think they're going to look at this week and go, okay, Mahomes couldn't stand it up. Allen with that rush at the end of the game to seal the win, and Lamar kind of falls flat to an incredible Steelers defense. I don't think that's an overreaction at all.
Yeah, not an overreaction. And if you look at my X account, it's time-stamped about 2 seconds after he completed that fourth down run. Josh Allen just won MVP. It's over. It's over.
That's at Rufus P88 for all of those following along.
So I guess maybe I just should have looked at your X account and then looked at something else. I just think that this guy can literally do it all. And it's almost like he knew when he got into the end zone, right?
Except with the layup passes. He makes all the difficult stuff look easy. He makes the easy stuff look difficult, but he's a freaking moose. And I knew he was going to run on fourth down. The defense knew he was going to run. Tony Romo knew he was going to run on fourth down, and it did not matter. He needed 2 yards. He got 22, and he dragged a safety into the end zone with him. Unbelievable.
Well, and then you think about this too, like everyone's going to say, oh, well, Lamar beat Allen earlier in the season. If you put those two teams in the field right now on a neutral site, Buffalo would win by 10. I mean, come on. Like this isn't, we're not talking early season. You have to play well now. Josh has only thrown 4 picks. I don't want to hear about it. This guy is clearly the front runner. He's playing with no receivers. Khalil Shakir again was his leading receiver. That's a no-brainer. All right, let's stick on the Bills, guys. Obviously, they are rolling right now, sitting at 9-2. They seem like I actually was going to put on this topic list that they weren't going to lose the rest of the season, but I made a minor adjustment, and I'm going to go this way. Week 15, you know who the Bills have on their schedule?
The Lions.
The Detroit Lions. That's going to be a preview of the Super Bowl, guys. Bills-Lions Week 15 is a Super Bowl preview.
Wow. I'm going to say not an overreaction. And again, I'm going to have to go back to the timeline. We're going about 13 days ago. I said Bills-Lions is the Super Bowl. So, Isaac, I don't know if you've got a direct line into my cell phone, but not an overreaction, my friend. These are the 2 best teams in the league.
That's a tough one to argue against. Like, the weird thing is, like, my gut says no. My gut says overreaction. And I think it's because I'm used to the Lions just not being able to get over the hump. I think if you look at the NFC, I think it would be close between San Francisco is always tough.
They're so hurt.
Philly, I'm just not sure that they can go. Like, if Philly doesn't pull a Philly and plays an entire season really tough, I think that's going to be a tough one to overcome.
I don't trust Sirianni.
Yeah, but I trust Hurts, I think is my problem
the other
there.
one. I don't trust Hurts.
Yeah. So I'm going to go overreaction. I think they have a tough time getting past the Eagles.
Wow. Yeah. I looked at the Lions yesterday, and God forbid if you took Jacksonville plus the points, you're probably hurting for cash right now. I think these are the 2 hottest teams in the league. I don't think there's any question. Do we have room for one more Bills topic, gents?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So, we saw in the last few weeks, I mean, the Bills are getting by with basically no number 1 receiver, right? Keon Coleman's been hurt. He was out yesterday. Amari Cooper came back for the first time in 2 weeks. He didn't do much. Khalil Shakir is a great guy in the slot, but okay, is he really, the number 1 guy? And yet Josh Allen continues to produce. He's playing his best football he ever has. So, everyone wanted to talk about Stephon Diggs leaving was going to be a problem. Guys, I think if the Bills never would have traded for Stephon Diggs, they would have won a Super Bowl by now.
That's an overreaction.
Yeah, I agree. You go first, though.
Josh Allen was not this good in the time that Stephon Diggs was there. Diggs, I think, elevated that Bills squad to what they were, but I think Josh Allen has taken over. Because those first couple of years with Diggs, Allen wasn't that good, and they really had nobody else. And again, I watch these guys against the Dolphins twice a year. It was basically Josh Allen's going to run around and wait for Diggs to get open. That was their entire offense. They actually have a cadre of playmakers now. Joe Brady is a fantastic play caller. They run the ball. You talked about Khalil Shakir, but I'm looking at guys like Curtis Samuel, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. He has a plethora of playmakers outside of the number 1 receiver position.
Yeah, that's the exact route I was going to take too. Is Allen was way more of a gunslinger early on in his career, and I think he needed that safety net of Diggs.
Look, Diggs is out there somewhere.
Yep, I'm going to find him. I'm going to roll out. I'm going to make. He's still making those plays, but I think if he doesn't have that security blanket of Diggs, I think he ends up making a lot more turnovers, making a lot more mistakes, and losing some more games.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. I think it was a perfect time to have Diggs. Now he's an older player. He's a smarter player. He can read defenses a lot better to kind of match that talent that he has. So, yeah, I mean, my concern at the beginning of the year for the Bills was there were no offensive weapons, but Allen has showed that it doesn't matter who's there. As long as he has people playing out of position, he's going to win a game.
I put this down, guys, because I think, okay, all season long, Josh hasn't had to feel like he's needed to force the ball to anyone. I feel like in the last 2 seasons, he had to be a gunslinger because if Steph didn't get the ball, he would be frustrated with them. I look at this offense right now and I'm like, there are so many options. There are so many people who can throw the football to. They don't need to worry about Diggs. And if they didn't trade for him, maybe they're in a spot where, okay, they would have a Super Bowl because Josh can play free. He can play a little bit less concern that he has to get the ball to one guy. This offense looks a lot better than it did in the last few years, and I think they're going to be really, really good down the stretch of the season. Those are my overreactions for the Bills, guys. If you thought those were spicy, just wait till next block, because we got a couple of really good ones for Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
Well, we were kind of talking pre-show. We kind of were expecting one, so we'll see. And Isaac did not share any of these beforehand, so we're kind of coming in blind. Yeah, coming in blind. Before we take the break, though, I think this was the game for the Bills that they needed to have, because up until this point, they haven't really played very many good teams, right? Ravens and Texans, they lost both those games. And other than that, it's been Cardinals, Dolphins, Jaguars, Jets, Titans, Seahawks was, they were a little banged up at the time, Dolphins again, and Colts. So I think there was a lot of question marks about the Bills. Can they win these big games, right? And this was their first big test, I guess you could say, coming in against the Chiefs. Now you have Niners, Rams, Lions. Niners are tough. Rams, you don't necessarily look at them anymore and think, oh, this is the Super Bowl team putting up 50 points a game, but they're still able to win any game they play. And then you have the Lions. I think these next 3 games are going to be really, really important for the Bills. So I think to kind of set them up for success, they needed to win this game against the Chiefs. All that talk about, the Chiefs keep beating the Bills in big spots and stealing their players and their picks, and why do they keep doing this? That gives you the momentum coming in. You can be a little more comfortable, I guess is what I'm saying, coming up against the Niners, the Rams, and the Lions versus having lost this game and then you're trying to push one of these wins.
I think the biggest difference in this Bills team versus the last couple of years is the run game.
Yes.
And I credit a lot of that to Joe Brady. I think James Cook is coming into his own, but the Bills were always a team that they had to put it on Josh Allen's back, and he had to be the leading rusher. He had to be everything. I think they can lean on the run game a little bit more for the first 3.5 quarters, and then you can lean on Superman at the end of the fourth like they did last night.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we got to take a break, but when we get back, we're going to continue on with some Overreaction Monday. We're going to be recapping Steelers and Ravens. I'm a little nervous about this one, but I'm looking forward to it. We'll be right back.
You're gonna love.
I know it.
You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quickfill. Right? Welcome back. You're listening to Flagship City Sports Talk, brought to you by Quick Fill. We're reacting to the week that was, which is really the best part of Monday morning.
Love it.
My team's the best. No, your team's the best. No, you're the worst. Super Bowl or bust. The Browns lose again. I mean, these are just reoccurring themes that happen on a Monday. But with that, like we said in the last segment, if you missed it, we've brought back Isaac Petcash's segment, Overreaction Monday. We brought it over here to Flagship City Sports Talk. So let's continue to overreact as we look at Steelers versus Ravens.
Loud noises!
Go ahead, Isaac. Hit us with the Steelers.
Let's be loud, shall we? We'll start with the Steelers. Big 18-16 win over the Ravens. It's a pretty cut and dry start. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC come playoff time.
Oh, big overreaction. I mean, the Steelers are a good team. They may be the best defense in the league, but number 1 seed in the AFC, they're not going to have a better final record than the Bills or Chiefs. They're the third seed at best.
Destiny.
Which is the worst part.
Yeah, I think it's overreaction. I don't think they're the best team in the AFC. They're good, but they're not the best.
I think that is an overreaction as well. I really want to say yes, I do. But I'm trying to look past my Steelers fandom, and when I look at Buffalo, I look at Kansas City. I think that that is a lot to overcome. I think my answer is different if the offense performed well yesterday.
We'll get to that in a minute.
They didn't. Well, let me unpack it just broadly then. They didn't wow me. It was a game management game. This was a Tomlin game. The defense played out of their minds. Like, this is a defense that shut down Lamar, which always seems to kind of have, pushing Lamar out to the pocket to the left side. He's not as strong over there. So they know Lamar. They figured him out. I don't think the offense is strong enough, is balanced enough to beat the likes of a Buffalo or a Kansas City. Maybe come playoff time, they can win a game. But if I'm betting on who's going to be top the AFC, I just don't know that I can look past Kansas City and Buffalo right now.
Just saying, if they win out, even if they were to lose a game, beat Kansas City, they've controlled their own destiny, folks. They don't have to worry about Buffalo at this point. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a chance. And I'm saying that that's a likelihood because, gents, yesterday was their first division game for Pittsburgh. Of course, it's a huge win. Baltimore's the team that they're trying to beat out for the AFC North. And I think yesterday was the start of what will be a 6-0 division record for the Steelers. I don't think Cincinnati's good. Cleveland's in shambles. And I don't think Baltimore can never beat Pittsburgh in Baltimore. They only have to beat them in Acrisure. 6-0 division record for Pittsburgh at the end of the year.
Well, and I don't think that's an overreaction because I agree with you. You got the Browns twice, Bengals twice, and you got the Ravens again. I do think it'll be tough for them to go into Baltimore. But the reason I'm still sticking with overreaction on the first in the AFC is because shoved in between those AFC North matchups, you have Eagles and Chiefs. And I think those are going to be two tough games because the Eagles defense is not something to scoff at. And the Steelers defense is playing really well, but man, that Eagles offense looks really, really great. And the same thing with the Chiefs. Like, for this to be a normal reaction, for them to take over first place, this defense needs to be lights out for the rest of the year. And there is a path for that to happen, but I'm not taking that bait.
I'm going to go overreaction as well. Division games are always tough. 6-0, on paper, it looks like they can. I just don't see it happen. I'm playing the numbers. Over the course of years, you don't win every division game every year. You build your team to beat your division opponents. Cincinnati always plays Pittsburgh close. Cleveland, how bad they are, they usually play Pittsburgh close. Yep. I think the Steelers stumble in at least one.
All right. I looked at, Cincinnati. I'm like, well, I mean, outside of the third quarter, they were horrible. My prediction for them was 7-10. I think it's actually going to be off. They might be 6-11 by the end of the season. Cleveland's a mess. We're going to get to them in a second. And Baltimore, I don't know. You can't beat Pittsburgh if they don't score an offensive touchdown. I don't know.
And I don't think it was Lamar Jackson's worst game in probably 3 years. I don't think you get that again in Baltimore.
And I don't think it's Cincy that you have to worry about. I do think it's either Baltimore at home, just because they're at home. Tough place to play. guys, I do worry about the two Browns games because, like you just said, the Browns always want to step it up against the Steelers.
Always.
They were able to shell out against the Ravens. I know that the Ravens their pass defense is a little suspect, but I think like from a Browns organization standpoint, they're going to put that ball in Jameis Winston's hands and let him throw it out. And so I think if I'm looking at this 6-0 record that you're talking about, Isaac, I'm looking at. They could lose one to the Browns, not because the Browns are a good team, but because they're going to come out. They have nothing to lose, and that's scary. And then, I think the Ravens at Baltimore is going to be tough too.
All right. Well, I got 3 more. I got one more for Pittsburgh. And speaking of bad performances, this pains me to say it, guys.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
A stake in the heart. Russell Wilson, another bad performance. To me, he's had 2 not so great ones in a row. He throws a pick. His completion percentage was 64% because he wasn't throwing the ball down the field much. At some point this year, I don't know when, I don't know how, Justin Fields will be starting again for the Steelers at some point this season. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm going to say overreaction barring injury. I think you see what they think of Fields ever since Russell Wilson came back. They brought him in to run the ball 2 times, and that was it. Wilson, he had a bad interception. It was a little bit underthrown in the end zone. I think that happens. 64% completion percentage, that's 4% above the minimum threshold in the NFL. So it wasn't a bad day. He did take 4 sacks. I looked at the offensive balance. They threw the ball 36 times. They ran the ball 34 times. I think that's really good balance. Listen, man, Fields isn't an NFL quarterback. I don't know how else to put it. He can't throw the football. Like he can throw it. He has the physical ability to, but he's just not an NFL thrower. I'm not trusting him with a playoff caliber defense. I'm putting Wilson at the helm. I'm going to run 50-50 run pass and just let him dink and dunk all the way down and keep away.
Yeah, and I'm overreaction as well, barring injury, because I think that Fields is fine. But you look at this game yesterday, and I said this to Paul because we prepped for this question. This was the only one we knew was coming.
Yeah, I knew it.
And we were talking about if this was okay, what would have happened in this game if Fields starts? And I leave it here. They would have lost this game. And I think, yes, he would have had more rushing yards than Russ did in this game. He wouldn't have had as many sacks, and he would have beat Russ in one other category, and that would have been interceptions. I think he would have made a couple costly mistakes. Kyle Hamilton was all over the place yesterday, and I think that's the difference between Russ and Fields is that Russ is going to eliminate those mistakes. He's going to play smart ball and just let the defense take over. They won this game 18-16 without scoring an offensive touchdown. That's, not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob.
But the point is, he's not making those big mistakes that I think Fields would potentially make.
You mean the mistakes that Fields didn't make through 6 games of the season?
I
don't know.
That.
I mean, I would prefer to beat teams 28-16 instead of 18-16 with like a rushing touchdown from Justin. But that's just my prerogative. Whether it's others, I don't know. How much time do we have? Because I got 1 or 2 in the Browns.
We got 2 minutes. Hit us with one more.
All right. So I got one more. My topic that I'm going to go over was that Kevin Stefanski would be searching for a job for Christmas. But this one ties in because I think for Cleveland, the season's over. You got to go a different direction and you don't have your quarterback. The Browns should tank the rest of the year so they can get Shedeur Sanders and then hire Dion as head coach, baby. Put the 2 back together, go in a new direction. Dion and Shedeur next year for Cleveland. Let's ride.
I'm gonna go overreaction because I actually a little inside baseball here. I already know that Deion Sanders is not going to let Shedeur go to Cleveland.
No way.
Like it's just not going to happen. This is like the Eli Manning situation. They're not going to let him go to the Chargers. He ends up going to the Giants. Shedeur is not coming to Cleveland. The best chance quarterback that Cleveland has to get is Cam Ward. I don't know about that, how that's going to go down yet, but Cleveland Browns fans, just sit down for me. This is a little fireside chat here. Shedeur Sanders will not be your quarterback next year. No chance.
End conversation. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually could see Drew Aller ending up over there too. That would be
in 2 years.
Kind of interesting.
He's not coming out.
Oh, that's right. He's only a sophomore.
He's a junior. He can come out.
I was gonna say he can, but he won't. Same with Nussmeier. He's not coming out.
Now, overreaction. I just don't. I think coming off of a last year Coach of the Year candidate, I just think that's tough for them to overcome.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Stefanski, if he was fired today, he'd have another job tomorrow.
Yeah. So Shedeur Sanders, he's going to be in New York next year with Dion. All right, Erie. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Nick Artman, signing off for Paul Adamczak, Rich Smith, Isaac Petcash. That's it. We're done. Have fun.